secrets are, and you are not one of them.
After days of waiting, Matpat's latest and most anticipated FNAF theory has finally launched, and when I watch it, I can literally feel it deleting my brain cells. I hope you all packed a lunch, because this is a big one. The response is 20 pages of this. 20 pages. Just keeps going. Why is there so much waffling about in this video? Nearly 4 minutes in is when he actually starts theorizing. So that's a little bit better than some of his other theories. At least he's not trying to sell us his merch.
I just simultaneously whipped a Nene!
What's the deal with the Vanny therapy tapes?
I don't know, what is the deal with those Vanny therapy tapes? By the way, my follow-up video on the Vanny therapy tapes coming soon.
Why is this room from Sister location in Pizzaplex?
Actually, why is the Sister location room here? To be serious for a second, somebody has to be fucking with me, right? Like, this can't be the exact room from Sister location. That would mean the Pizzaplex was built around the FNAF 4 house. So underneath should be Sister location, not FNAF 6. By the way, Matpat does not discuss any of this. He's just throwing this out there as random mysteries. Just naming random mysteries. And that nonsense code on the wall doesn't even tell us shit. It's a shame because that was a really tough code to crack. That would have been an awesome place to hide a 6 secret. That's one thing that bugs me with this game, is like, why hide codes in like binary and stuff if they are all just stupid and meaningless? Why would a child be able to write in perfect binary code? Am I not asking the right questions here?
Music Man!
Music Man was kind of underutilized, but he's lucky to get anything at all, considering he's from FNAF 6, and nobody from that game seems to exist in Security Breach. Seriously, there's no Prize King, no Candy Cadet, no Fun Time Chica, no Rockstar Chica, Helpy, Trash in the Gang, Data Archive, the Wonderful Weasel, Left Bonnie, Grape Man, and the true scariest animatronic, the Jar of Pickles. You have to always watch out for the Jar of Pickles. He could be anywhere. He could be anywhere. Pickle jump scare. Okay, but that's just naming a few characters from FNAF 6. But go on.
There are a lot of things to solve in this massive game, as lore hides behind every pirate poster and inside every arcade cabinet.
Although the art in this game is amazing, lore simply doesn't hide behind every poster and every arcade cabinet.
That's not how any of this works.
Like, they already overdo it with the callbacks in this game. Like, I wouldn't even be surprised if we just opened up a room and there was the FNAF 3 office, just for no reason.
But the theory I have today goes to the heart of this game.
This little graphic that comes up of the characters layered over an image of a human heart can kind of give us some insight on what it's like to edit for a FNAF game theory. Pretty much all of the visuals are literal interpretations of what's actually said out loud. So here his theory is literally going to a heart with the franchise on it. But the whole animation plays out in less than 4 seconds, so you're not even given time to think about this shitty art before more shitty art rockets past you. Without the context of the video, this heart is just an abomination. And the way all these images move reminds me of how beginning artists would kind of animate their characters in Flipnote Hatena. The way all these images just sort of bounce into place. Does he literally think his entire audience is like 5-year-olds that can't go 10 seconds without a moving image on screen to keep their attention?
In a franchise full of dead kids, I want to focus on the first ever living child we've seen in the main story of the games.
I guess according to Matpat, the crying child isn't a living human. Well, on the console version of FNAF 4, his walking animation wouldn't play, so he actually ended up looking like a little robot scooting around. It was kinda cute. I guess these characters aren't human either. You know what they say, life is short.
Except for in the Fruity Maze minigame, but we all know that she ends up dead.
Wow, he's even refuting his own point in his own video.
Why is he such a cold-hearted savage to Roxy and the rest of the animatronic gang?
Matpat actually brings up an excellent point here. Gregory is downright ruthless to the animatronic gang, and I'll bet if Gregory wasn't befriended by Freddy, he was planning to destroy the whole gang. That's probably why we start the game inside of Freddy, telling him to shut up like a little shit. Maybe we were going to kill him first, but we found out he was friendly.
Hello, Internet! Welcome to Game Theory!
This Game Theory intro is pretty lackluster. For comparison, here is the intro to his second FNAF 6 theory. I know it's kind of cringe with the squid puppet chasing the purple guy and the purple guy chasing the dead kid, but it's probably the best intro they've done so far. And then this one is just...
That's it?
Hello, Internet! Welcome to Game Theory, the show that can't help but stuff its face with FNAF lore like Chica stuffs her face with pizza and garbage. I guess at this point it kind of applies to us too.
What is that graphic with Scrap Trap on it? What is that? I'm gonna play it again slower, just look really closely. I want you to tell me what it is.
It kind of applies to us too.
The fuck even is that? I can only guess that it's some attempt at a joke about how you don't like Afton for some reason. But that little graphic that slides up with Scrap Trap on it does not read properly. Nobody can tell what the fuck it is. The whole sequence is dumbfounding, and it's followed by asking the viewer to subscribe.
Anyway, if you want to stuff your YouTube feed with FNAF videos, then hit that subscribe button right now.
Want to see what it'll actually fill your feed up with instead? If you actually want to stuff your YouTube feed with FNAF videos, sub to Blackfoot Ferret, because he's doing a lore quest of Security Breach right now, and he's my favorite FNAF YouTube theorist.
Because today starts what I expect to be a 3-part series into the many unsolved mysteries of Security Breach.
Why do you have to divide it up into 3 parts? Heck, it sounds like you haven't even thought about parts 2 and 3 yet. Like, I know the game has a lot to talk about, so just make a 1-hour game theory. But he can't. It probably has something to do with how he pays his editors or scriptwriters or something. Or he had to rush this first part out as fast as possible so that he could buy time to work on parts 2 and 3. My money is on him coming up with some nonsense like tape guy being golden bonbon or something, and then basing parts 2 and 3 off of this obviously wrong information.
I mean, on the surface, the game seems pretty self-explanatory, right?
Nothing about this game is self-explanatory. Why would you use that phrase to describe it? That's the last way I would describe Security Breach. I'd love to hear what the brainchild follows this up with.
Survive being trapped in a mall for 1 night.
In no case is Security Breach as simple as he's letting on. It's approaching FNAF 4 levels of ambiguity. It's not quite there, but it's...
Looks like the new team forgot to read the title of the franchise.
They should have called it 5 hours at...
But that's nothing. That's easy. Once you start looking into secret rooms, secret tapes, secret endings, secret minigames, and actually bother to read all the emails and item descriptions, you learn that there is a lot more here.
Maybe one day he'll actually go into all these things and discuss them. All he seems interested in doing right now is wasting our time with this never-ending introduction that tells us nothing. Also, I like how everybody calls the retro CDs the secret Vanny tapes, even though they're not cassette tapes anymore from Help Wanted. Maybe it's because the CD player actually looks like a tape player? Maybe the code on the wall is from Tape Man.
Stuff that looks both backwards at the series that came before and forwards into what is coming next.
I like how the future of the series is represented by like a phantom box that's been opened. The box is nowhere in Security Breach and has nothing to do with the video. I just love how Matpat's thing is like the box. He's gonna like find a way to tie the box into Security Breach somehow.
Stuff that, quite frankly, I'm still working on piecing together.
3 parts. Heck, it sounds like you haven't even thought about parts 2 and 3 yet. Here, Matpat straight up admits to basically just winging it. I'm starting to get a little worried. Is this theory gonna have any substance whatsoever? So, a follow-up game theory came out before I could finish my response to his previous theory. Matpat basically doubled down on all of his theories. He discovered in this ending image the ice creams are incredibly telling. Gregory's is a golden Freddy ice cream with a bite taken out of its head, and Vanessa's is almost like the ice cream cone from the sister location cupcake minigame. Yeah, it's actually pretty on the nose here, and I can't lie. This evidence is so strong, it practically proves his theory of Greg and Vanessa are true in some capacity. I didn't think that there could be one tiny little piece of evidence that could refute my entire video, but here we are. Anyway, back to my response of his previous theory.
But today, I want to focus on a mystery that I do feel like I have a pretty solid handle on.
What the f? The chains that come in holding the box up look so scuffed. I guess if it's supposed to be how solid of a handle Matpat has on the mystery, then it makes sense why they're so loose. But oop, there it goes. Only on screen for a second and a half before it's replaced by Gregory's lifeless face and a literal cutout of Freddy. Both of them being in different art styles, combined with a little panning image of Bonnie Bull behind them, just makes it perfect.
Glamrock Freddy. What's the deal with this random kid, and why is a killer animatronic suddenly trying to help him? Before Freddy suddenly glitches out and smash cut to Gregory just being there, I guess.
I actually didn't have any problems with this part until I saw that little editor's note down at the bottom. Technically he's in here. What does that mean? The editor is really taking a lot away from this video just to make his presence known to the viewer. The best kind of editing is when it isn't noticeable, but the editor of game theory doesn't seem to agree.
One of the weirdest, most jarring intros to a game ever.
It begins with one of the most shocking intros in video game history.
Really? It's really not that weird when compared to like FNAF 2, where you like look left and look right with the really weird sounds. Or have you ever tried playing Persona Q without playing any Persona games before?
Who are you people?
Also, why exactly is it weird and jarring? That's one of the cool mysteries of this game, is where did Gregory come from? Matpat tells the viewer that there's no explanation.
From that point forward, we're just expected to assume that everything is perfectly normal, no explanations necessary.
But he deliberately leaves out this bit of evidence because it detracts from the theory he's trying to lead us into. Also, what does Matpat exactly mean by this? Is this just filler? Why is this line here, except to segue us into convincing the viewer that there's no explanation when there actually is one?
Why did you lie? Look at me. Tell me why you lied.
Why is Matpat trying to make the game sound so simple? Starting the game like this allows each player to draw their own conclusion, like I did earlier. Before the game came out, I was worried the game would be too straightforward, and the ending would be so simple. Kinda like in FNAF 6, where Tape Guy's ending speech is just a little too on the nose. But that's pretty much the only time in that game where it gets like that.
So I'm here to give you that explanation.
Start the video already, I'm dying over here.
Because I strongly suspect that this boy is not a boy.
That's a man.
And this robot is not a robot.
Does Matpat truly intend to convince me that this guy isn't a robot? Or is this just more bullshit and fluff to fill out the video? Here Matpat slides images of Greg and Fred over the FNAF 4 background. I actually find it kind of funny when Matpat tries to tie new information back to FNAF 4, even when there's glaring evidence against his theory. He will literally take stories from the books and go, it's a parallel to the crying child and the older brother, so it literally is him in FNAF 4. Even though the character in the books dies, so he would never be there to torture his little brother the whole game. Side note, why does the brother absolutely torture the crying child all throughout FNAF 4? Locking him in his room before night 1, hiding and scaring him before night 2, abandoning him at Fredbear's, leaving him to be chased down by Fredbear that's already eaten somebody. He leaves him again before night 4, locking him in the parts and service or employee safe room, while he begs to be let out before night 5. Then finally lifting him into the Fredbear's mouth where the tears cause a springlock failure, killing him. The last one seems like an accident, but when you think about all the torture that he put him through throughout the whole game, maybe it wasn't an accident.
So what does the game offer us in terms of his backstory? Nothing. Nothing.
2 seconds later.
First and foremost, we know that he's pretty much off the radar.
Duh, I'm stupid.
I get what you meant by this, but you realize you just said we don't know anything about Gregory. Now here is the first thing that we know about Gregory. We get a little bit of Greg explained through gameplay rather than outright told to the player. He prefers indoors, small places. He's a computer nerd. He's pretty familiar with Freddy and friends. Matpat himself gives you some insight about who Greg is later, so I don't know why he's saying we don't have anything on him. You're either lying again or you're just dumb. Or he could be withholding it so that he could be dramatic and theatrical about it, like this is some video equivalent of Ace Attorney.
At the start of the game, Freddy does a quick scan only to realize
Your guest profile is unknown to me.
Blackfoot Ferret said in his video that these robots have the same facial recognition scanning technology that the toy animatronic had. This all goes over Matpat's head. He's more concerned with using this information to prove that Gregory is a homeless kid that lives inside of the Pizzaplex, both of which I'm not convinced of.
That is great news. He can be returned to his parents.
He can't. Turns out, there's no record of him.
clearly Gregory is not a guest at the Pizzaplex.
So Matpat takes the evidence of all of Greg's public records being deleted as him never existing at all. Well, I guess he never had any parents or home, and never went to school. It's more logical that he's a rebuilt crying child that put adhesive medical strips on his face.
In the game's bad ending, unlocked by just leaving the building at 6 a.m., we see Gregory winding up in an alleyway sleeping in a cardboard box. He appears to be homeless. This then explains a few other things that we see around the Pizzaplex. In a couple of hidden locations around the building, we find little dens that are filled with drawings, plushies, and beds. The most notable one being the one behind the daycare center.
I don't think Gregory would make these drawings on the wall of these characters. He doesn't like them. He seems to hate them. Another thing I see very little discussion about is that Gregory needs Freddy to explain a lot of things to him, like he's never been to the Mega Pizzaplex before. Gregory didn't know about the existence of the daycare, just as one example.
Seems to be living inside the Pizzaplex.
I thought the same thing for a little while, but there's just too many things that don't make sense about it. Like, it's okay for us, the player, to be unfamiliar about the Pizzaplex, but for Gregory to not know anything about it when it's his home?
Which would explain his lack of a guest pass.
Yes, Gregory also lacks a photo pass, which Freddy assumed we already had one, even though Greg doesn't show up when he's scanned, meaning a photo pass is something everybody at the Pizzaplex has. We can assume that each person is given one when they get inside of the Pizzaplex, and that it's a security measure like the colored wristbands from FNAF 6.
You can't even be sure that his name is Gregory. In the game's opening scene, Gregory has no issues speaking to Freddy.
Will you shut up?
Who said that?
I did.
However, once Freddy asks him for his name, he stutters.
I'm Gregory.
Why would he stutter on his name when he was clearly fine answering everything else just seconds before?
Matpat's video could basically start right here, and he makes an excellent point, something I myself didn't even notice.
What, is that it? Gregory's just some homeless kid that sets up shop in the Pizzaplex and happens to get wrapped up in Afton and Vanny's plans? Yeah, right.
Now, Matpat may be on to something here, even though I don't agree that Greg is a homeless robot. Gregory might have some significance to the previous games. He could be Tape Guy's son. You know, the kid that yeets himself out of his own window just to go to that place. Maybe that place is the Pizzaplex. But I'm subscribed to the idea that Gregory gets his significance from Security Breach. Perhaps the missing kids were his friends from school and he infiltrates the Pizzaplex to find out what happens to kids that go missing.
Take a look at Gregory here. Notice anything familiar? Dark eyes, brown hair with a piece fallen between his eyes, shorts, a shirt with 2 stripes across the middle.
Oh my gosh, I never even noticed. It's...
Ladies and gentlemen, Gregory is none other than...
Hello everybody, my name is Markiplier and welcome to Five Nights at Freddy's 3.
I'll refrain from making a bunch more stupid jokes about this scene because the meme has already been done to death.
They took one screenshot of the episode, of an 18-minute long, 4,000-word theory, and they're like, oh, Matpat equating any sad white kid with a striped shirt to the crying child. There he goes. Thank you for ignoring literally everything else that came out of this.
Matpat, you're mad that nobody's breaking down your 4,000-word, 18-minute review. Well, here I am, and it's mostly filler.
Gregory is crying child. Don't believe me?
No, I don't believe you, but I can honestly see why you tried to make this conclusion. Like, look at the little strand of hair and the stripes on Crying Child's shirt. Those are like the only two notable characteristics on him. He even stacked in all those other things just to make it sound more convincing when it's really all just bullshit. Like everybody has said, brown hair could be on pretty much any character. Dark eyes is kind of an embarrassing point. To me, Gregory's eyes look yellow, but this could be the artist's way of making his eyes brown with the already dark graphics. And the shorts is just a coincidence.
Early on, we get this weird moment when Freddy says this.
I feel you are broken.
We all know that the language in this franchise is never chosen by accident. Is it a coincidence then that the word broken is only used one other time in the FNAF series to describe a child? That iconic FNAF 4 clip with crying child and golden Fredbear, you're broken, we're still your friends. I will put you back together.
I like how Matpat has read aloud these golden Fredbear lines so many times that he doesn't even say the two middle ones anymore, even though one of them is one of my favorite lines in the whole franchise.
Everything is okay. I'm still here.
No! Wait, I'm still here!
They even dropped this line in Security Breach, which really made me happy.
The fact that both Crying Child and Gregory look alike and are considered to be broken screams of a connection existing between these two.
Except for the fact that Gregory doesn't shed a single tear throughout the entire game. Also, hold on to your seats, because the next move Matpat makes is a barn burner.
You ready for some autism?
Him being the Crying Child would also explain why he has nowhere else to go. His dad is an undead zombie living inside a yellow bunny suit, and his mom is MIA. There's also lines like this.
Your parents want you to follow me. Your family is looking for you. Let me take you to your parents.
This just sounds like Chica spouting out some generic security protocol. If indeed Gregory is the Crying Child, Chica's lines here take on a whole new meaning, because she is quite literally bringing him to his family. His father living in the basement, William Afton.
Okay, are you still with me? I know that was some heavy learning. First of all, the graphic that slides around with Chica holding Gregory is just... Chica says a lot of lines in these chase sequences. I think the lines about your family are a coincidence. Or they could just be referring to Vanessa.
But obviously there's one big problem with this.
Everything.
Daddy!
You faggot!
Crying Child isn't Purple Guy's son. In this video, Matpat doesn't show any evidence of this and acts like it's just common knowledge.
There's one big problem with this. One that I'm sure all of you are screaming at your monitors or typing aggressively down in the comments.
The whole thing is basically undoubtedly false, but please go on.
Crying Child is dead. He died in FNAF 4 when his older brother Michael picked him up to be chomped.
It's actually kind of funny when you simplify it to that level. Like, yeah, but he's dead. He died when he was killed. He was also murdered and destroyed.
And not only did he die, his soul then went on to be one of the two spirits possessing Golden Freddy, the other being the vengeful spirit Cassidy, before he was finally put to rest by the puppet in the happiest day ending of FNAF 3.
What is going on? Okie dokie, this is where things start getting challenging. Mentally challenging. So even though Crying Child was killed by Fredbear, he goes on to haunt the Golden Freddy from FNAF 2 for some reason, which is a different animatronic entirely, despite what you may be hearing.
And before you get all mad at me saying, oh no, that was Fredbear. Fredbear is a version of Freddy, okay? Go away. Fredbear is literally a version of Freddy. Back off. Go away. Back off.
How about no? They look different, they have different names, and they even occupy spaces in time a decade apart. Top 10 gaming, more like top 10
go away.
Here, Matpat tries to tell us that Golden Freddy, I'm assuming every iteration of a yellow Fred type bear, is possessed by Crying Child and a second as of yet unnamed character named Cassidy. I guess it's not complicated enough for Golden Freddy to be haunted by one spirit. So he gets to just come back thanks to the puppet? Is Happiest Day just like Exile Island? You get to just come back into the game? So what do you think happened to all of these characters after Happiest Day? Did they just turn into the Blob? It also seems Matpat's given up on making a timeline.
Gregory is a robot.
What a quaint restaurant. I think I will sample their wares.
I'll try to make this as quick and painless for all of us as possible.
It's okay, I'm already numb to it by now. Just lay it on me, Rat Pat.
In the books, children having tragic premature deaths and then being rebuilt as robots by their grieving fathers is something that happens a lot. Like, if I had a nickel for every time this plot line showed up, I'd have like 3 nickels, which isn't a lot, but it's weird that it happened 3 times.
Here, Matpat says that he can show you 3 examples for his point, but when he actually goes to explain it, it turns out only one of those examples actually supports his point. The other 2 were only implied, so he sidesteps around it. He then tries to stack some evidence from the over 30 Fazbear Fright stories that only slightly support his point. Why are you trying so hard here? Gregory stands next to fire in this game and doesn't show any sign of anything. If he was truly a robot, that would burn his remnant.
Anyway, to summarize, there's evidence in the wider canon that FNAF 4's lines about the crying child being broken and needing to be put back together were meant to be much more literal than any of us first suspected.
Matpat has been speculating that this line has had double meaning since the very beginning. He's honestly romanticized the phrase and now has to apply some greater meaning to this tape man line, which is cool, he just doesn't think it's from the tape guy.
Within Security Breach itself, there is plenty of evidence to suggest that Gregory isn't exactly what he seems.
That's weird. Remember when Matpat said this?
So what does the game offer us in terms of his backstory? Nothing. There is plenty of evidence. Nothing.
How did you put these two things in the same video?
When Vanny spots you and starts to get closer, your vision gets a CRT effect. And it's worth remembering that since this is a first-person game, that is representing your vision. So why are your eyes suddenly behaving like cameras on the fritz?
Vanny could be using the sound illusion discs that only work on people. Matpat doesn't tell you this because it refutes his theory. Vanny's effects also don't work on Freddy. He couldn't even see her.
In a way, she has a sort of X-ray vision, which is why when you first install him into Freddy, his comment really stands out.
Freddy's comment tells us nothing. He would have said something if Gregory was a robot. If anything, this proves your theory wrong. You should have withheld this information like you did with all of the other evidence that makes your theory look wrong.
Also, Gregory can be inside Freddy when he's inside the charging stations, which on its own feels weird. Or could it be that those charging stations are as much for us as they are for him?
That's probably just a bug. There was someone in my comment section who noted about how only Freddy and Afton need to use the charging station. The charging stations are most certainly not simple charging stations.
Remember that secret den behind the daycare where we assumed Gregory's living? There's a strange amount of decommissioned and what appear to be salvaged security robots.
Oh, so that makes sense. Gregory is just hanging out, trashing corners of the Pizzaplex, and whenever an animatronic scans him, it just says, "Oh, you're not human, you're fine, move along."
Maybe for a kid who needs a robotic upgrade.
First, you're assuming Gregory made those hideouts in the Pizzaplex. Then, you're assuming that he also destroyed the robots that are there. Third, you're assuming that he used those parts to upgrade himself based off nothing.
But maybe the biggest point of evidence comes from the very beginning of the game, where during the opening cutscene we see Freddy glitch out. But what causes that glitch to happen in the first place? Well, by going frame by frame, we can see that there's a security threat on the loose, and it looks to be a small child. What? It's Gregory. It has to be. Gregory is the threat here, a robot that poses a threat to Freddy's programming.
I think that Matpat's actually right here about Greg Heffley being the threat that shuts down Freddy Benson's integrity level. But the part about Greg being a robot is just delusional nonsense. Wouldn't Freddy's alert say robot threat instead of child-shaped threat? Like, what would be the point of hiding all of this from the player?
But why? How? What would make sense about that?
Matpat here actually has no evidence to support this absolutely claim. And to cover up for this, he's going to quickly and not so subtly segue to something else entirely. Just watch.
Well, to understand that connection, it's time to put a pin in Gregory and turn our attention over to Freddy.
Matpat, you have to do better than this. You're really fucking us. Right when we really need you to come through for us, you give us this. You've fucked us.
If you unlock the game's final secret ending, you end up going below the Pizzaplex, only to discover a former Freddy Fazbear location, Freddy Fazbear's Pizza Place.
If the devs have played any of the previous FNAF games, they would know that beneath the FNAF 4 house is sister location, not FNAF 6. Imagine how cool it would have been to see Circus Baby's rentals, Ballora Gallery, Funtime Auditorium, the Scooping Room, but no, we just get a cheap recreation of our floor plan from FNAF 6.
If that name doesn't mean anything to you, it shouldn't, really. Most of the restaurants in the series go unnamed.
Except for the FNAF 1 restaurant thanks to the job listing on the opening newspaper. And the FNAF 2 restaurant because of the Night 1 phone call.
Hello and welcome to your new summer job at the new and improved Freddy Fazbear's Pizza.
In the FNAF 3 building, oh, all of them have names now that I think about it. But that would mean Matpat lied to us. Matpat would never lie to us, right? We even know the names of 2 restaurants that aren't presented in any games. I just think Matpat hasn't played the first 3 games in a few years is all.
As a refresher, this is the location that Henry lured all of the roaming animatronics to in order to burn them to the ground one final time.
Although for one of you, the darkest pit of hell has opened to swallow you whole.
so don't keep the devil waiting, friend.
And this is it, here. Seems like Henry's plan didn't quite work as expected.
More specifically, nothing about Tape Guy's plan worked. Our pizzeria still looks pretty much intact. All of the characters that Tape Man got together and burned are doing even better than they were before, having missing pieces completely fixed and paint restored like FNAF 6 never even happened. None of the spirits let go. No dark circle of hell opened up to take Springtrap. He even gets an upgrade.
We still see pretty much everyone that he tried to torch away, and they're all alive and well and thriving underground. Springtrap is there, Molten Freddy is there as this big black blob.
So even Matpat calls the blob's face Molten Freddy, even though Molten Freddy looks nothing like the blob's mask. I feel like this is kind of a big deal since our FNAF 6 restaurant is right next to this blob and all. Just take a really good look at it, guys. Remember that the devs don't have models for Molten Freddy, Scrap Baby, Scrap Trap, and Lefty.
If you look inside that blob, you can even see Baby, and heck, even the puppet. Kinda lessens the impact of that Savage Henry speech from FNAF 6, but whatever.
Every single game is taking more and more away from that epic FNAF 6 ending. And now seemingly with all of the FNAF 6 robots surviving the fire and our restaurant surviving the fire, the ending is truly meaningless. And Tape Guy's accomplishments mean nothing.
One character is notably absent here, Michael Afton.
Gregory is Mike. They're the only two characters that we see faking their names.
Who we're reasonably sure was the guard working at the FNAF 6 location and the one who helped to burn it down.
I agree with Matpat here. I'm one of the believers that we play as Mike in all of the original FNAF games.
After being scooped, turning purple, and trying to undo his family's sins location by location, he went down with the ship and burned alongside his father and sister, which means that presumably he should be here somewhere.
Unless he became Matbot. On a serious note though, maybe the Securitrons and staff bots are what became of Michael.
Yet he's not, unless of course he's taken on a new form. Say perhaps Glamrock Freddy.
Based on what? Also, wouldn't that just be the biggest kick in the nuts too? If after FNAF 6, Mike freed every single one of the souls, wrapped up every single loose end, no Golden Freddy to be seen in FNAF 6, yet instead of peace and more, he wakes up as Glamrock Freddy.
It's funny how dumb you are.
Okay, let's just see. Let's see how Matpat explains this one. I'll bet this is his big wowzer that he's been holding back on us.
We know for a fact that Freddy's been down here based on some of the lines that he drops during the finale.
I know what this is. I have been here before.
I have been there before.
She brought me here. I had no choice. Now I have a choice. I have changed. My friends are here. They are so angry, confused, but I can protect you.
So he's in a place where he can get possessed.
What? This incredible Freddy line, chock full of answers to mysteries. Not only do you cut part of it for time while leaving in stupid shit, you also come to the lowest IQ conclusion I think anybody's ever come to. What the fuck do you mean by this?
We also hear that Freddy isn't acting like his normal self, saying,
I am not me.
Guys, Freddy said he's not himself and he's in a place where he can be possessed. That's why he's Mike Schmidt from FNAF 1.
And in yet another ending, the fire ending, Freddy is more than prepared to set the place ablaze, much like Michael Afton did to Fazbear Frights at the end of FNAF 3.
It was never actually confirmed that Mike started the fire that burnt down Fazbear Frights.
Nothing says that clearer than the replica of Mike's room from Sister Location that's hiding inside the Pizzaplex. Yeah, for those of you who don't know, hidden inside the mall is the exact replica of Mike's living room from Sister Location. Over on Mike's wall is a coded message.
And now we finally get to the wall code. I wonder what Matpat's gonna say about this.
It reads as follows, quote, break and mend, I built the breath. They hunt now, drawn to life. Not real, still me, and frit and fraught with thought and zest and guessed no blunt woes. Dodge, duck, flash, shoot, crawl, run, crush the vile band. Cry not, try not, do not hold out hope. Your life, your aim will save those with soul. Basically, this is just a bunch of fancy talk, all relating to Mike's personal journey.
Oh my god, let me get this straight. Holy shit. That Fazgoo some good shit.
Fazgoo.
Michael Afton wrote this Omegatron cipher as Freddy for Gregory to find and decode using totally not bullshit. For what? Why did he go through all of that? What?
Getting a little crazy.
The first line is all about breaking and repairing things. In other words, Ennard and Baby.
What? You...
Now, does the presence of this room and poem necessarily mean that Mike is Freddy?
Yes. Yes, it does.
My friends are here. They are so angry, confused.
He's talking about Molten Freddy.
See, I would agree with Matpat here, except that he keeps calling the blob Molten Freddy. He even shows a goddamn close-up of Funtime fucking Freddy and just keeps going on.
The spirits trapped inside of the blob. It's very possible that those were indeed his friends captured and killed back in the day. Maybe William himself struck back against the kids that had bullied his youngest son, and now some of their spirits are trapped below the surface as part of the blob in this abandoned restaurant. Or maybe that's why Gregory is so brutal to all of these animatronics at the end of each boss battle. They killed him back in 1983, and now it's his turn to show the bullies no mercy by launching a go-kart at their face and ripping out their balls.
What the fuck? Are you fucking for real? Wow, this is starting to sound like a terrible old theory somebody made when Sister Location came out, where they said that the brother and the bullies were Ennard children. We're reaching Ennard children levels of stupid. Do I even need to explain why he's wrong here? Maybe since the video is almost over, he just stopped giving a shit. There's a bunch of little random letters all around the word narrative here. No doubt it's some kind of code. I'm certainly not gonna decode it just to have it be some kind of discount on his merch or something.
This would just be a continuation of that story, as both Aftons return post-fire. And more importantly, it also completes the arc of the crying child and his older brother.
It didn't need completing. It was already done.
Since accidentally killing his brother in FNAF 4, Michael's been trying to make amends.
The brother is an unfeeling torturer and ends up killing his own brother. He doesn't get to be the hero.
Brotherly. I was awfully similar to Michael and the crying child.
This would be quite literally their grand reunion. An older brother finally able to protect and defend his younger sibling in a way that he failed to earlier in their lives.
The older brother wouldn't try to do that. He was a piece of shit, and I hope he got his brain taken out and put into Nightmare. Or better yet, maybe he becomes this blood pile from FNAF 2. Again, he doesn't get to become the hero of the story. This sounds more like the origin story of the villain.
This is also why Freddy's programming would glitch out after he encounters Gregory in the opening cutscene. The soul of Mike, buried deep in Freddy's code, comes through upon sensing his brother again. It hotwires the system so that Michael Afton, in the body of Freddy, can defend his kid brother.
Except for that you said earlier that Gregory lives inside of the Pizzaplex. If that were the case, he would have numerous close encounters with Freddy on the daily. So I don't know why he would be alerted now if what you're saying is true.
In part of the Pizzaplex, we find a family dinner scene made up of decommissioned staff robots. A father, a mother that kind of looks like Ballora, a daughter with rosy cheeks and orange pigtails, a son, and one with its head missing, the child whose head was bitten off in 1983. This is very clearly the Afton family.
Here, Matpat makes a good point about the headless robot. What he doesn't mention is that the father is wearing a top hat, an item normally associated with Freddy. If it truly was Afton, wouldn't he have bunny ears? Maybe it's Harry's family.
Call out the final moment of this ending, where we see Gregory, Freddy, and Vanny all sitting together on a hill. A hill that I should point out is oddly reminiscent of the FNAF 6 gravestone hill.
Actually, it's kind of oddly reminiscent of this hill.
It feels meaningful, like all these characters have some sort of history. Why would Vanny be there otherwise? Unless this is meant to be the crying child, Michael, and maybe even Elizabeth.
Yeah, just throw in Elizabeth too. It's your special day, dude. I mean, just look at this image here. Matpat has completely lost it. Why does Vanessa have to be Elizabeth? Is it because they both have green eyes? All he does is recap his terrible, terrible conclusion so that he could base his next theory off of it. So what do you think? Do you agree with Matpat? Leave your thoughts in the comments. Like, subscribe. Feary Fursday out. You want to be in the video, Toby? He's a lemon. He's a toe. It's a massive toe. Oh, you're big. Oh, don't make it fall. Don't make it fall. Don't make it fall. Stop it, stop it, stop it. No, 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 no. Suck it up. You're massive. You're a massive flea. Oh God, you're gonna make